Hello everybody, and welcome to Theology 101. Today I will talk about the problem with anger. Jesus said this about anger. You have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. Jesus is quoting the sixth commandment, you shall not kill. This commandment referred to murder since we know that the Mosaic law allowed people to kill during a time of war or in self-defense. But notice what Jesus says about the sixth commandment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Jesus does not specify what type of judgment he is referring to, but the Old Testament was clear about the judgment murder deserves, capital punishment. So Jesus is saying that righteousness addresses both the outward actions and inward motives of a person. God still does care about murder, but he also cares about what motivates a person to murder. For Jesus, murder is a fruit that comes from the root of anger. He continues, whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. The word insult is literally raka, which means a person who is an airhead or empty-headed. It is insulting a person's intelligence. Jesus says that anyone who views another person this way is subject to the council. The council refers to the Sanhedrin, which was the Supreme Court of Israel. Do you hear what Jesus is saying? Insulting a person's intelligence requires that you give an account before the highest court level. Can you imagine if this happened in your country? Imagine you got in a fight with your sibling and you called him or her a stupid idiot. What if your parents called the police and then you went to jail? Then they took you to the Supreme Court and this case was all over the internet. This will seem crazy, right? But Jesus goes another level. And whoever says you fool will be liable to the hell of fire. Whereas raka insults a person's intelligence, fool insults a person's character. Jesus says that this is a greater crime because now you are denigrating another person's character. When you view another person this way, Jesus says you are liable to the hell of fire. The word hell is the word Gehenna. Jesus will use this term again in this sermon. Gehenna was an actual place outside of Jerusalem. It refers to a valley called the Valley of Hinnom. Back in 2 Kings, people will perform human sacrifice in this valley to Molech. By the time of Jesus, that valley became a place where the city's trash was burned. So people during Jesus' time will see fire and smoke coming from that valley with a very nasty smell. Jesus uses this valley as a picture of hell. So who deserves to go to hell? When we think of hell, we picture the worst of the worst in society. Hitler is in hell. Stalin is in hell. But Jesus adds to this list and says that people with anger towards others, such that they denigrate their character, also deserve to go to hell. We must understand that the words raka and fool were actually common words used to publicly shame a person. Even though they were ordinary results, Jesus says that they deserve extraordinary punishment. Nobody listening will expect a fair punishment for insulting a person to be hell. Nobody will put people who insult others in the same category as murderers. So why does Jesus say this? Often we look at a punishment based on an act. If you steal, you must be punished less than if you murder, right? Certain acts deserve harsher punishment. But what we also need to consider is the person we commit the act against. The same act committed against different people will warrant different levels of punishment. Imagine if you went up to a random dog and punched it in the face. You might get a fine, but you won't get jail time for assaulting a dog. Imagine if you went up to a stranger and punched him or her in the face. You will get a fine and some community service time. Maybe you'll spend some time in jail, but it won't be for that long. But what if you punch a police officer in the face? Now your punishment will be more severe because you assaulted somebody who has authority. Now imagine if you went into the White House and then punched the president in the face. Now you will be punished at another level. Even though it's the same act, because it's committed against a person with greater value, it requires a greater punishment. The reason why anger towards a person warrants such a severe punishment is because that is the value God places on people. You see, every human being is made in the image of God. Every person is valuable to God. Jesus' half-brother James says it like this, with it we bless our Lord and Father, and with it we curse people who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Listen, murder and anger are connected in this way. People only murder or insult others with anger when they don't value that person. Jesus continues, so if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother and then come and offer your gift. Jesus changes from the second person plural, you all, to the singular, you. Now, Jesus is getting personal. If we truly understood the problem of anger, then we should also be concerned about those who are angry towards us. The goal is not just to refrain from murder, but to reconcile with people. You see, the opposite of murder is not murdering. The opposite of murder is to love your neighbor as Christ loved you. And the way that Christ has loved us is by forgiving us and reconciling with us. So Jesus illustrates this principle with two illustrations. The first picture is a person who goes to a temple to worship. When this person is about to bring an animal offering, he or she remembers that somebody is angry with them. Keep in mind that this person probably traveled up to 80 miles just to get to Jerusalem. They had to exchange their money to get temple money to buy an animal offering. They would have gone through a lot of trouble to travel to Jerusalem to worship God. But notice what Jesus says. If a person is angry with you, that is such a big deal that you should leave the animal in the temple, walk 80 miles back to your hometown, which would have taken you about a week, so that you can reconcile with your brother or sister who is angry with you. Look at the second picture. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. The second illustration no longer involves two friends, but two people going to court. One has accused the other, and if the accused is found guilty, that he or she will have to pay a financial settlement. Jesus says not to wait until you go to the court to hear a verdict, but to come to a financial agreement quickly. Settle matters with this person before going to court, because if you are found guilty in court, then you will have to pay the full amount you owe that person. The word penny is a quadrans, which was the smallest Roman coin. Jesus is saying that it will cost you so much more to pay the full penalty in court than to reconcile and settle with this person outside of court. The first picture is to reconcile with a friend quickly, and the second picture is to reconcile with an enemy quickly. But the two illustrations make the same point. It will always cost you more to not reconcile with the person than it will to reconcile. The gospel tells us that we have the power to reconcile with others because Christ has reconciled us with God. This means that you can reconcile with people who are angry with you. Thank you to today's sponsor, On Reverence. They offer a free digital worship music app called Maskill. If you want to find out more, I'll leave some links below in the description box. If you missed the last video about what it means to be righteous, I'll leave a link here for you to watch. And until next time, see you.